What's up, y'all? Thanks for joining in. We're about to get things started. Let's see. We got H-Town, Iron King, Beast Kennels in the house. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in. We got Ziggy Seves. Hope I pronounced that right. Said, why does it look glossy? Let me see something. That's weird. Hold on. That looks like my phone camera is smudged. All right, there we go. Uh, let's see. Ziggy said, "What you think of free feeding dogs? Glad to make it to another one. Glad you're here." As far as free feeding dogs, it depends on the dog. I've had one dog where you could free feed her. She would never eat too much. Sometimes she would even skip a day without eating. I think for the most part, it is something that you need to control and monitor. If you are for instance, a bully breeder, our dogs come from Mastiff, Bulldogs, dogs that are known to eat a lot, and you just want to monitor that, and make sure that that's the right thing that you're doing, so that the dog doesn't overeat. Um, some dogs, though, some breeds that pit bulls. Uh, what else would I say? Your terriers. Uh, what else? Greyhounds. I know they sometimes will just eat enough, and then that's that. So it's something you want to be careful with. If you have a dog that is free feeding, and they're not overeating, then you should be fine. It's not a bad thing. But so just monitor how the dog eats. Like I said, I've had one dog, and I possibly kind of two now that I'm thinking of it, that you could free feed them. And like I said, they never overeat. And sometimes they would just skip a day of eating to let you in. Because I think some animals will automatically do that. If they feel something's wrong with their stomach, they'll go ahead and not eat to let their system clear, which kind of goes back to why I say fasting once a week is a great thing for your dog. So just monitor the dog. I would not do it in puppies. I'd say anything under 6 to 12 months, I would avoid doing it, because a lot of times they will overeat. And so I would say just monitor it. Once the dog hits a year old, little maturity kind of sets in, then go ahead, and it might be something you can get away with. But it's not for every dog. And of all the dogs I've owned, like I said, I can only think of two that I did free feeding with, and they were perfectly fine with it, didn't eat too much. But so just kind of monitor it, because you can have a yard of 5 dogs and there's only one that's cool with free feeding and operates fine off of it, whereas the rest will overeat. Or it can also cause them to get bored with their food. Next thing you know, they're just not eating for some reason, not strictly because they're bored with that food, because the access is there all the time. So hopefully that answers your question. Zola, the American Bully, what's up? Thanks for joining in. We got Massachusetts Fishing and Growing. What's up, brother? Salute back to you. Thanks for joining in. Who else? Oh, is it going? There we go. Floyd, that was a hard situation. I've always had certain attachments to certain dogs based off of the life me and that dog lived together, the work they did, how well they did that work. But then as I got older, I started becoming attached to dogs based off how they were, fit in with my family and the phases that they went through with my family. And Floyd was one of those. He and my youngest son were real close. I think we got Floyd when my youngest son was like 5 or 6. And they were real close. I remember people used to always tell me, you shouldn't have that crazy dog around him. But they were like, the matter of fact, even when he was little, he used to call Floyd his puppy brother. So, to have him go through those different phases in life with me, my family, and at the same time, his ability when working out in the field, yeah, it was hard for him to go. But thanks for that. Dom said, real RIP Floyd, and that land looks dope. Yeah, thanks, Dom. Same thing. Is certain dogs hit you in certain ways, and he was definitely one of those dogs. He was a nut, but he was definitely one of those dogs. He was what? He was our nut, my wife said. Exactly. So, that was hard for the family because he was a dog that even as he got older, it was like he got more mischievous and just started breaking more rules in the house and everything. So, but then when they're older and they're doing it, they get on your nerves, but you kind of love them more for it. So that was difficult for myself and the family watching him go. He did pass in his sleep, so I like that. There was no, he was just getting weaker and weaker, started losing his appetite, things like that. And he went out on his own terms, as he always did since he was 6 weeks old. That was just the way that dog was. Let's see. Yep, Dom, it's about that time. Floyd stories. Ooh, that's a whole nother live. That dog was a bad dog, and I mean bad in both ways. Bad as in good, and also bad as in he was bad. So Floyd has a million stories, but we might go ahead and do some Floyd stories one day. What's up, WKRK9? Thanks for joining in. Detroit in the house with Black Bottom Bullies. Let's see who else we got. Get Man said, G Hitman said, let's go. Yes, let's do it. We're about to get into it. G Line Kennels in the house. Let's see. Bully Bread Kennels is in here. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in. I see Pretty Eye Pitch. Thanks for joining in. And who else we got? Rick Libre said the Mojave. We actually used to hunt in the Mojave Desert with our dogs. But it was hard, always difficult to find things. Every now and then we come up on a good jackrabbit, but other than that, it was difficult. The woods was always better. Damian Voss, what's good, man? Thanks for joining in, dude. I saw you sent me, I just noticed when I got on the computer, you sent me a message. I'm going to check that out now. As soon as we done with the live, so give me a second on that. It's showing Facebook comments today, but it's not showing who sent them. Say, hey, just logging in. Question, why have I seen people bad-mouthing Bossy Blood all of a sudden? Two reasons. One, that is the internet world to badmouth those who are more popular than you or those who you thought you were more popular than, and they see you kind of coming up in popularity. They call what does the kids call it? Clout chasing. And the other reason I think we see a lot of bad-mouthing Bossy, I think is honest, but I think it's through ignorance. A lot of times I might go to Bossy and I buy a dog, and then my neighbor goes to Bossy and they buy a dog, and then we breed those two dogs together, and then we say these are Bossy dogs. Well, the truth is it's not Bossy unless Kat, who runs Bossy, put her stamp on it. If she didn't decide on that breeding, it's not Bossy. You just have two dogs from the same kennel. I don't even think Bossy's at a point, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me. I don't even think Bossy's at a point where it's an actual a bloodline. So I think it's just a kennel. You're just buying two dogs from the same kennel. They throw them together and they call it Bossy, and then people badmouth it. Well, Bossy's not who you should be badmouthing. It's those breeders that you should be badmouthing. But because of the internet, we attach the two and we pretend that this is a Bossy litter. No, you just got two dogs from Bossy. You bred them together. Make sure you guys like, make sure you subscribe, and go ahead and share this out. But yeah, that's why the main reason Bossy gets badmouthed is because of her popularity and her success in the game. Bossy, Marlon with DDK, Andre with BGK. Those are just people who sit at the top and they're going to get badmouthed. They're beyond the show world and Facebook and everything. So, you're going to have those people that envy that. And it's an internet world, so everybody gets to post their opinion. Let's see. Dom said, what's your opinion on Sure Grow 100? I like it for 10-week-old pups. And I like it. I think it's a good product. I actually was not using it until I got into bullies. And it was I don't remember who it was, but it was a bully breeder that spoke to me about using Sure Grow, which I had heard of. But I think it's a good product for pups. Just make sure to follow the directions. You don't want to give too many minerals, things, and the vitamins and things like that, because it can also backfire. So make sure to read the directions on it before using it. And what if I give it twice a week instead of giving it daily? I feel that daily is a bit much. I feel you. That's kind of wild what I just said. I think if you go by the directions on it, I would go ahead and run with what Shearbro is saying because they have been here for quite a long time. It is an established product. But if you're giving it twice a week, I don't know that that would be enough to that it would make a difference. You know what I mean? To actually, because you got to remember, you're giving something to the dog because you want it to be in the dog and help that dog. And then all of a sudden, that dog runs, plays, shits, pees, and then all of a sudden those things are gone. So twice a week for what you do with a dog, whatever it is you do with a dog, is usually not necessarily enough. I would probably boost it to maybe 4 days a week, every other day thing. If that's, if your concern is overdoing it and you're not fully confident in it, then that might work. But I don't think twice a week would give much benefit that the product is designed for you to get. Let's see. Solo said our free feed after. You didn't put the number in there, Solo. You said our free feed after months old. You didn't put the number in there. Ziggy said I tried feeding Victor, but my pup just eats dog chow or Old Roy. I mixed it, and somehow he picks other food. Not Victor. Just not sure how he does it, but he does. I had a Jack Russell that would do that. You could mix stuff up, and that dog would only pick out the little bitty things. The other dogs didn't have the ability to do it. She would just pick out the little bitty things that she liked. I would say then I wouldn't worry about the Victor. Here's the thing about Victor and a lot of those high-end dog foods. When I was young, and I've explained this before, those products were those high-end dog foods and that specialized in more protein and all whatever else they claim to specialize in. We were feeding pedigree, Old Roy, gravy train, whatever it was, dog chow. And then when you got ready to take those dogs out, anywhere from 1 to 2 months before you got ready to take those dogs out for whatever performance it may be, weight pulling, hunting, whatever it's going to be, during that conditioning phase, you would switch over to a Victor or a higher end dog food. And then after that performance was over, you'd switch back to your regular food. So you would only see those types of foods in like feed stores and things like that. Then they started making their way into pet stores, and then they started making their way into the grocery store and started getting promoted, and marketed on a whole nother level. And they all took off, and now they've got all of us thinking that, oh, this is what we need to get. Just what I would say, if you're going to feed Victor, make sure that it's not too much protein. All dogs need is anywhere from 18 to 23, 24%. If you're not working them. And when I say working them, I don't mean exercising, fetch, walks, things like that. I mean, actually conditioning, where you're focused on conditioning them for a specific ability or performance that is about to take place. So just be careful that you're not giving them too much protein, especially with the pup. With the pup, you want to keep it on I said 18 to 23, 24. You want to keep it on the lower end of that. And the dog should be fine. But if it doesn't want the Victor, then don't worry about it. Leave it out. Now, you can do ingredients transfer, what we always called it, where you mix water in it. So you put the Victor in the bowl first, pour some hot water in there, and then, as you're scooping the other dog food or whatever, then you mix that in, and that hot water kind of makes it that soaked up a lot of ingredients from the Victor, soaks its way into that other kibble, and then you should be able to the dog will be able to get something from it, even if it just eats around all the Victor. So that's another tactic you can use. But just be sure with those high-end dog foods that you're not giving out too much protein, because that is a huge problem, especially if you're breeding bullies. Casper, what's up, my man? Thanks for joining in. Mike B said, does the point of I think that's overfeeding have to be to create your own, wait a minute. Does the point of breeding, I'm tripping, have to be to create your own bloodline, or is it cool to match dogs off of traits and continually produce pups that are better than their parents, but you never close your yard? That's a good question. I personally believe when it comes to new breeds that we should all be trying. When I say new breeds, I'm talking about dogs breeds that are, let's say, under 50 to 100 years old. That we should all be aiming at our own bloodline, because, as I've said before, bloodlines create consistency consistently. And so that way, if you have a consistent image or look, temperament and ability in your yard, and I've got the same look, but I want to get your temperament and your ability, then I can come to you. If I don't have the look, I've got the temperament, I got the ability, then I know who to go to. Having a bloodline stamps you, your yard, your dogs. It separates you from everybody else in the breed. I personally think that, in my opinion, is that when it comes to new breeds, especially a breed like ours, that one has had a huge amount of new breeders with their own opinions and their own preferences. You also got the internet, which messes up the consistency in almost everything, makes things that we once considered, low value, immoral. Now all of a sudden it's pushed so much on the internet that it becomes normal and it becomes okay. I think focusing on a bloodline is only going to better your yard because you end up reaching the end game. Now, the bloodline typically is not complete until you've done a tight inbreeding. I mean, until you've done a tight line breeding or an inbreeding because you've gotten what you want. So I do believe that as a breeder, you should be focused on an image, what you want to be as your representation of this breed. Focus on that, create the bloodline, and then that way you've got something. You can always use your bloodline once you breed out of once you do that close line breeding or that inbreeding, you got to outcross anyway. So you can bring something new in at that point. But I do think creating a bloodline, not only as a breeder, gives you focus and a goal that you can admit when you don't hit that goal, and you can visually see that you didn't hit that goal. I think that's what a bloodline is best for. I also think that, like I said, it just brings consistency by bringing consistency to your yard, it helps bring it to a breed. The problem now with bullies is we've got a million different yards, and each of those, when you look in each of those yards, they've got 5 million different looks. So we need to start narrowing that down, because of it being a new breed. But good question. Let's see. Ziggy said, I have to take off. I'm on HVAC tech and got a call. Hope to come back. If not, I'll catch you tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you for answering the question. No problem, Ziggy. Make sure to tune back in. Sorry for the loss. It said Damien. No worries, man. Been through it a million times. This one was a little different, but I've been there. Rigo said, watch from StreamYard and YouTube. There you go. Coucher said, damn. Okay, there we go. I was muted for a second. Um, let's see. As long as she is healthy enough to bounce back after the breeding, she should be fine. I would say when the female starts hitting 4 or 5 years old, you want to look at it. What you got to understand, when you hear people talking about a progesterone test, it's because they're testing the levels of progesterone in the dog. Progesterone also messes up the uterus, not the test, but that natural chemical from the dog messes up the uterus of the dog. So over time, after so many heats, that uterus starts getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, to the point where it is no longer any good. And then right around then, the female starts going into heat or stops going into heat. So yeah, just tell them that I'm on a live, and I'll call them as soon as I'm done with it. Oh, that's fine. Just text them in. So I would say start getting 4 years old, watch how she moves, things like that. 5, but I would say around 6, that should be, old enough to go ahead and retire her. But it's based off the individual dog. Smaller dogs are going to be able to breed for a longer period of time. So I would say, if she's still running, exercising, she's got all that type of youthful energy, then she should be fine. But so just keep an eye on her. Your main thing is you want her to be able to bounce back after the pregnancy. And then the older they are, chances are there's more complication with the birth of the puppies. That puppies actually, coming into fruition. So I would keep that in mind. Let's see. So StreamYard video quality is better watching on both. How are you watching on StreamYard? That's what, okay, because YouTube should be through the StreamYard. I think StreamYard is on Facebook. So you're the first person I've heard doing that. Hardcut Bully Kennels, what's up, man? Thanks for joining in. Kings of Bully Excellence said, what's good, fam? Looking forward to another dope live. Yeah, we're about to get into it in just a second. Mr. J, my man, what's up, man? Thanks for joining in. XL Cashmere Bully said, if your dog food already has calcium and phosphorus in it, would you still use SureGrow 100? Would it be too much, basically, is what you're asking. That's something you got to watch for. And that's why I thought it was cool how he said is it, on the question earlier, is it too much? A lot of these dog foods do come with a lot of what happens to be in SureGrow 100. You got to remember that's an old product. So that's a difficult question because it boils down to how much calcium, how much phosphorus. Calcium, too much calcium can definitely be bad, especially for growing dogs. So I would say something like that. Maybe do it, every other day with the SureGrow 100. That's a good question, though. Difficult for me to answer because I don't know how much calcium, how much phosphorus is in what you're already feeding the dog. And then, the SureGrow may not be necessary. So that's difficult. You can always, with dogs and the amount that they poop, piss, you can always typically get away with something that's every other day. So I would say if you're gonna try SureGrow, then just cut back on what the amount that it prescribes or gives on the directions. Yeah, Black Bottom Bully said, let's get these likes up. Definitely. Make sure you guys make sure you subscribe. If you're on Facebook, share it out. If you're on YouTube, you can copy and paste, I think, the link at the top or the whatever at the top and then post that wherever you want. Free feed after 6 months old, maybe. I agree. And when they start eating more control, that's when I would, practice free feeding and see how they do on it. You just don't want them to, get overweight, especially young pups. So I personally wouldn't start it till about after a year. I think the extraordinary talent Bossy has is spotting and working with other kennels and dogs that share their similar goals. I give it up to her. I mean, you can't knock somebody that's successful at what they do, especially if you're trying to do what they do. And I know we see a lot of that in today's world, but to me, it just doesn't make sense. Kind of makes me laugh. It is what it is, but I do think she has produced some great dogs that she's been known for. But I think a lot of the dogs we see claiming to be bossy don't necessarily come from a bossy production. They come from other kennels buying bossy dogs and breeding dogs that are from bossy kennels, but not necessarily dogs that she would have bred. Let's see. Maurice, what's up, man? So what's up, Daryl? I seen a dude on YouTube and he's about to breed a pit bull dam to a pocket sire. What would this production look like? Because the pocket has more bulldog in it, the pit bull has more terrier, and those are the two battlers when it comes to showing their genetic traits. There's no telling. I would assume they're going to breed the pit bull to the pocket, and then pick what's more styled as because if I want a pit bull, I'm never going to breed it to a pocket. If I want a pocket, I might breed it to a pit bull just to get better structure, a little more drive. So it depends on what he's looking for. As far as what it will look like, you're probably just going to get, I would say, a leaner, more better structured pocket overall is what I would assume his goal is. as far as the litter, he's going to have to pick that pup that represents that goal the best. But that's what I would think. I'm just wondering why they would be crossing the pocket. What's the purpose in crossing that? Dom said, I noticed feeding Victor, the pup started knuckling over. Exactly. Then I switched to adult Purina dog chow, and in a week, the knuckling over went away. Yeah, you, again, it's a lot of those higher end dog foods can definitely be bad for pups and their development. Even when I was young, a lot of those foods didn't come with, on the back of the bag, it tells you how much to give a dog based on its weight and its age, things like that. Well, a lot of those foods they were for hunters and herders and people who had their dogs performing. So a lot of them didn't even come with instructions for puppies back in the day, but now all of a sudden they do. So, and it's it is what it is. I personally don't find the need for it. Victor and all those high end dog foods. I want a dog that can function well. Fur looks good off old Roy pedigree, things like that. I don't want to constantly be putting band-aids on the dogs in my breedings through, higher end dog foods. Let's see. Damien said we do blue puppy large breed as a starter food and once a week chicken organs. There you go. And seeing the puppy food for large breeds, like Damien is talking about, tends to come with less protein for the large breeds to be able to develop correctly. It's not rushing that growth and causing things to grow abnormally. And that's what the large dog food, puppy food, large breed puppy food is for. Because a lot of other foods just have too much in it. So the large breed puppy food cuts back so that the dogs can grow normally. And then, like you said, switching it to adult food. I personally don't feed any puppy food. I stick to adult food. Let's see. Mike B said, when fixing a male dog, is it possible to do a vasectomy so they keep their testosterone production? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. What I would suggest is when it comes to fixing a young dog, wait till they hit 2 years old. That way they're fully developed. They've got their personality, they've got the bone, the muscle that they're supposed to have, and then go ahead and get it done. Next question was also, after a female is spayed, is there any hormonal changes that we should account for? What I have noticed is females that were spayed young tended to be leaner, just like the males. Their hormones aren't just for reproduction, you know what I mean? So it's also for their development as a female. So, like I said, male or female, I will wait till that dog is at least 2 years old, fully developed, and has gained those temperamental genetics from their hormones, and then go ahead and then get them fixed, and then from there you should have the dog that the dog is supposed to be. You're still going to lose up on a little bit of development because 2 to 3 years old is also a difference in dogs, but at least the development of the body is pretty much there. Captain, off-topic question: does breeding two heavy line bred dogs together result in hybrid vigor? Hybrid vigor is something we aim for, but it's not something that we're guaranteed to get. Typically, if you have dogs that are heavy line bred, inbred, you breed them to another dog that's heavy line bred, inbred. You're hoping to get hybrid vigor. And for those that don't know, hybrid vigor just means that you've been tightly breeding these dogs, hopefully not to the point where they're losing vigor, and then all of a sudden you outcross them, and then the dogs just turn out better than what you could have ever imagined. And whether it's ability, looks, temperament, whatever it may be. Now, when it comes to obtaining it, process is, you tightly line breed, tightly line breed, you do an inbreeding, you do an outcross to another bloodline, or you do an outcross to a scatterbred dog. Personally, in the dogs that I've seen, and I'm only speaking on performance because I wasn't paying attention to the looks of the dog at the time, but as far as performance, the dogs that I've seen achieve hybrid vigor the best were not dogs that were tightly line bred and then bred to another dog that was tightly line bred, due to the fact it just became a battle of genetics. When I've seen it take place, what I would say where the litter was consistent, like they just outperformed their parents by far. They were tightly line bred and then or inbred and then bred to a scatterbred dog that had the same traits that they had, and then things just took off to a whole nother level. But it's not something that we're guaranteed. It's not, you know what I mean? It's something that we're hoping for. But if it's something that you're aiming for just to get that boost in your program, it takes it to a whole nother level. I personally will probably find a dog that is line bred, but go ahead, tightly line breed, inbreed your dogs. Take that production to another dog that has the same traits as your dog, but is totally unrelated, but might be line bred, and you should possibly achieve it. Again, though, it's luck of the draw when it comes to it. WKRK9 said that's the misconception some people have, thinking that just because you buy a pup/dog from a particular kennel, the kennel name is not the bloodline of the animal. Exactly. And in the bully game, that's a big, gimmick. When I was young, early 90s to 2000s, one of the gimmicks people always ran was calling their popular dog a bloodline. So, I got Floyd line, but Floyd wasn't bred that way to produce a bloodline. He didn't go through that process. So how is that a Floyd line or whatever their popular stud or kennel name was? But it is definitely a gimmick. Guns Blazing Bully said, Guns Blazing Bully checking in. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in. Thank you again for the feedback and evaluation on my 6-month-old Blue Bull on the stack off last night. Much love, respect. Hey, I like the dog. Nice dog, dude. And thank you for joining that. Just for those that don't know, I go live with Raul from QB&K, myself, Raul from QB&K, Danny Cervantes from Second and None Bullies, and Bobby Lee York, who is also a branch of QB&K. On the first Monday of every month, we do a bully stack off where people bring their dogs in, and then we evaluate the dog. We pick a winner, and that winner moves on to the next phase. But yeah, nice dog, dude. Nice. Let's see. Heart and Soul Bully said, Daryl, in your opinion, do you think the majority of puppies take on the temperament/disposition of the dam or sire? Most pups take over the temperament of the dam. And a lot of times a pup hits 2 years old, a year and a half, 2 years old. We say, oh, yeah, it's just like his dad. But it's not necessarily that he got it from his dad. He just got it because now he's becoming a male and his dad happens to be a male. So like I've explained before, well, females have 2 X chromosomes. Males have an X and a Y chromosome. So when you take the females from your litter, they have 2 X's. So they got an X from their mom, they got an X from their dad. So the dad battles it out 50-50 for the female offspring. When it comes to your male pups in your litter, that Y chromosome only carries a limited amount of information because a lot of the information on that Y chromosome is geared to making him a male rather than carrying his mom or his dad's genetics, because only the male has the Y chromosome. So if you have a litter of 10, the majority of your pups are going to resemble the mom. The females, you might get, we broke it down into numbers and remove the randomness of genetics. Let's say you have 10 pups, and you got 5 females, 5 males. I should have picked something so I could have an even number. But you got 5 females, you got 5 males. 2.5 of the females are going to be just like the mom. 2.5 of the females are going to be just like the dad. When it comes to the males, of those 5 males from the litter, the majority of them, so we'll say 3 to 4, are going to be like the mom. The 1 or 2 that are like the dad are the random genetics of the dad that were able to make it through. But only one of them might be able to push on that dad's genetics. And that's a lot of problems that people have when breeding dogs, is they want a puppy that looks just like the dad, and they don't get it, or they get it, but he's not able to continue that look. So if you have a favorite dog in this game and you want to a dog that looks you want to produce dogs that look just like it, best thing you can do is go to the females that look just like that dog that is your favorite dog. But yeah, so the majority of the litter is always going to be dominated by the female. Let's see, no sound. I think that should be fixed. No sound, no sound. What is sound? Okay, looks like we're back on because I'm a little bit behind you guys. Let's see here. What are some signs your female is pregnant? When you get ready to breed your female, the first two things you should be looking at is the color of her gums. And I would say, so you don't drive yourself crazy and start imagining things, look at the color of her gums, I would say every other day, so that you can kind of get that memorized. Look at her nipples, the color and the size of her nipples every other day, so you can kind of get that memorized. You do the breeding, and in 30 days, well, our vets here won't do it till 40 to 45 days, but you want to know whether you should take it to you want to know to take it to the vet to verify if she's pregnant or not, because a lot of these dogs don't really start showing the obvious signs of pregnancy till they're already 40, 45. Some don't even show it till they're closer, around 45 days or more away, into being pregnant. So the reason I say look at the gums and look at the nipples of the dog, when that pregnancy starts kicking in around day 30, if you pay attention to the gums, you'll notice they tend to be whiter. They start to lose that pink color because everything's being sucked out of them by the pups, and they start to turn white. Another thing is pay attention to the nipples. You'll start to notice that they're starting to swell a little bit, things like that, as she's starting to develop milk. And before they can develop these things, the body has to get ready for it first. So one of the first things is you'll notice the size of the nipple starts to increase. The area right behind the nipple is probably about that big around each of the nipples. You also notice that starting to swell. So look for those three things. Color of the gums turning white, nipples starting to swell, and the area behind the nipples starting to swell. And you should know. Matter of fact, if you have a false pregnancy, what a lot of people will notice is that the gums never turned white. They start, and it's not pure white, but they just never got lighter. They stayed the same color through the whole pregnancy because those puppies weren't taking nutrients away from the mom. They weren't there. Let's see. You might be muted. I think we got that fixed. Yeah, I think we got that fixed. No sound, no sound. Mute yourself, no sound. Yeah, all right, cool. So we back. What's up, H Hawk? Thanks for joining in. Derek Hatfield, thanks for joining in. Let's see. House of Blue Pit Bulls in Long Beach. Shout out to the LB. She will leave some food behind about 3 to 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Not too sure what you're saying on that one. Not sure what topic you're speaking on. But what you said in your evaluation to take her to a dog with mass, but okay, now I specifically remember her too. I was thinking she was the one. Take her to a dog with mass, but equally or better as good of structure as her. What would you think about her and a King or Aziz breeding? I mean, from King or Aziz, you're gonna get the mass. You're gonna definitely get the mass. I would run. She's a little long. She's a little long-legged. King is long-legged, even though he has that mass. His size doesn't really give people a picture of how, because of the way he's built, it's hard to tell how big King really is. But King is like 27 inches at the shoulders. So he's a tall dog. If that's not what you're looking for, then King wouldn't be the dog you would want to go to, because of that. Now, when you get, like as I explained before with the XY chromosome and puppies and all that stuff, would you get dogs that are shorter? Yes. So for instance, King bred to Cardi Bull is what produced Aziz. Aziz is a shorter dog. He's almost as wide as King, but they're what, a year, and they're almost 2 years old. So King actually grew and developed till he was about 3.5. So we're still waiting to see how they develop. But Aziz is almost as wide as King, but on a shorter scale. So with looking at her, I would say Aziz would probably be the better pick, unless you went to King and you chose that pup that looks most like what you want, but you're going to get somewhat of a variety because of king size. So that was actually a good question. Ashley said, "What up, Daryl? I made it. What's up, Ashley? Thanks for joining in. H-Town is back-to-back breeding, okay and safe. Back-to-back breeding is the best thing you can do. When I was young, they were against that. As time went on, science got involved. Vets got involved. What they did learn is that it is best to breed the female back to back. If you can't or don't, that's not a bad thing either. But it just has to do with the scar tissue and things like that. So I would say back to back breedings is the best way. And yes, it is 100% safe. The other thing with back to back breedings is it keeps her in that mommy mode. She gets out of it and then bam, all of a sudden she starts to get pregnant again. She remembers this is what she's done before. And to me, it just keeps them in a better mode as far as mothering the pups. Let's see. Puppy child to pedigree for me. I'm a pedigree person, and I know the bully community hates it, but I stick with pedigree. It's what I've always fed my dogs. We fed other things before, but it's what I've stuck with my dogs. It's never failed me. I add to it. I look at kibble as a filler, so I do add to it. I never had any issues in dogs. Most of my dogs have lived a very long life. I don't think we've had anything die under 10 years old. I could say 11. I don't think we've had any dogs die under 13 years old, and it's all been off pedigree. And when I say die, I mean, through phases of life. I've had situations, dogs getting hit by cars or working out in the field and bad situations happen. But as far as, a dog, that's, makes it through performance into retirement and continues living, because I usually retire dogs right around six years old. Once I get the younger pups to be able to learn from them, then I usually retire a dog at about 6 years old. And those dogs, I've never had a dog die under, I could say about 12, 13. And it's all been off pedigree. So I'm never going to knock pedigree. Let's see here. But like I said, add to it. We're learning more about different, vegetables and meats and how they work with dogs. So I always say add to it. Denver, Colorado. What's up? 300 days. I see you got the herbal leaves on your profile pic. Nice. Rose Kendall said, I feed my pups pedigree puppy kibble and my adult dogs old Roy chicken and rice kibble. Okay, so there you go. I haven't heard, a lot of people don't use old Roy, because it's looked down on, but I always tell people things are looked down on now due to the fact that we have other things. So they force you to look down on the old things. But some of the best dogs that I can think of, whether I owned them or someone else owned them, strictly ate Old Roy. So, just make sure that, the ingredients that you're using are up to par, and go in that grocery store and compare ingredients, wherever store, grocery store, pet food store, whatever, compare ingredients, just to make sure that everything is on point. Eric, no problem, man. Thanks, dude. Thank you. Let's see. That's why you have to be stingy with your breeding rights. I'd rather pet home. You know what? Honestly, I've had dogs that I wouldn't call pet home because they were pups were sold for working purposes. The majority of my dogs were always pet home. I don't think there's any wrong with pet home in a dog. To me, if you're breeding a dog for show, it's a pet home dog. It's gonna be a pet. It's not doing anything of true performance. So to me, show dogs are pet home dogs. That the owner decides they want to show. You'll see some people that say, I've got these two pups. If you're gonna buy them, you have to show them. No different than I would say, okay, I got these two pups, but if you're gonna buy them, you got to make sure you put them into your working program, because I want to see how they flourish out in the field. So I look at that the same. But as far as pet home, I don't think pet home. We kind of see pet home being used as a bad word on the internet, and it's not. The truth is, most of your dogs are going to be pet home, and you're going to need that clientele. Because if everybody's just breeding for show or just a breeder, I don't actually we have avoided selling dogs online. One, we had dogs that needed to go to people, and then two, for various purposes. Two, you don't really get to know people. So as I get to know people, I think in the next 1 to 2 litters, we'll probably do some selling to people, from the online community. But other than that, most of our dogs go to people through word of mouth, and they just know of us from breeding dogs. 300 Days said, growing up with game dogs, I find it hard to deal with most bullies because they aren't as durable. I agree. Long heights and runs. Is it true some XLs have better wind than the smaller bullies? Yes, the smaller bullies tend to have too many bulldog traits, whether it's the pocket and the English bulldog, or whether it is the standard and the oldie bulldog. A lot of people promote the oldie bulldog as a working breed, but it really isn't. There are dogs similar to the oldie and that have been labeled as oldie that were great working dogs. But when they started creating the oldie bulldog, that wasn't really a working dog. Some have the ability to. The thing with the XLs is that there are some people who work them. Most XLs should be able to do protection work at least. Now, when you're talking about hog hunting, things like that, there's only a few people that breed that style of XL. Erica Ross is one of them with RBR kennels. I think it's something bullies and retrievers kennels. A Ross bully and retrievers kennels, I think is how it is. But you can check out Erica Ross. Matter of fact, she just did a breeding with one of the dogs I like a lot, to one of Brittany Burns' dogs. And Brittany Burns does protection work. It's funny that we're talking about dogs, and when it comes to work, we're naming females. That's what I laugh at with the bully game. It is the females that tend to be truer to dogs, and the males tend to be truer to whatever made up concept of the breed. But yeah, check out, if you're actually looking for that, check out Erica Ross. You will notice her dogs are leaner. They don't carry the bone. They're well structured, well built. They definitely have the lungs. So definitely check her out. Fatima, what's up? Thanks for joining in. But yeah, check out 300 Days. Definitely check Erica Ross out. But yeah, the build of the dog, short legs, thick bone, mass, all that creates less stamina and less mobility and less functionality. Alberto said, did you ever have a breeding that should not have happened? Maybe too young or the wrong dog, etc. And if so, what was your opinions? I don't think I've had a breeding where I've made a bad choice in the breeding. I think, myself and also my cousin, who's my kennel partner, in our history of breeding dogs, we've always been able to produce dogs that we felt were better than their parents, and which typically signifies that the breeding was good. Now, I have had breedings take place that were too young. One specifically, I had a female, Sasha, and somehow Floyd got to her unplanned, and they had a litter of pups. But other than that, I wouldn't say that I had a breeding that I've ever regretted. And she did fine with those pups. She was a year old, and matter of fact, it was her first heat. She was just shy of a year old. My concern with it was her bouncing back in her development. So I had to make sure that I fed her properly and she got the correct vitamins, minerals, so that once she was done with the pup, she bounced back. Funny thing is, even though she was that young and that breeding took place accidentally, to this day, she was one of the best female moms that I've had. Rose said, "What's the latest you ever seen a female drop their pups naturally past 633 days?" Going past, I had a buddy. Now, I had a buddy that was claiming 66 days on his pups. That's the latest I've seen. Now, there are a few of us that argue about that because we think he kind of counted his days wrong. But I do have a buddy that at 66 days was when his litter dropped. I don't think I've seen or heard of anything later than that. And like I said, there's a few of us that argue with him about the whole the way he counted his days. But according to him, it was at 63 days. It was definitely was definitely beyond 60. I mean, it was 66 days. It was definitely beyond 63. Um, if I was going to give it to him, I would say it was probably like 64, 65. But there was a few of us that were kind of debating him about when he actually started counting his days. Let's see. What's up, Betsy Spirit Riders in the house? Ryan Barber, good to see you. WKR K9 said, I don't think reintroducing the APBT back into the bully gene poll should be necessary. They need to go ahead and close that stub. But I agree 100%. I agree. I think there's enough specimens out there to create some good-looking dogs. Let's go ahead and jump into the topics. Hold on. Let me get over here on Facebook because I always forget what the topics were. Topics for today are, where are we at? Why can't I find the topics? There we go. The Temperament series that's about to take place. What we are going, and also the second topic of today is early neurological stimulation. Is it real? Is it a scam? Is it a fraud? Or is it a legitimate science? So that's what we're going to get into today. As far as the Temperament series, I have had a lot of you hit me up. I've done a lot of consultations when it comes to breeding for Temperament, things to look for. I've had you guys show me various pups and ask you what my opinion is of their temperament. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down Temperament. And starting next week, those will be the topics that I contribute to the group. Of course, I'll throw the poll. As far as the poll, they've got some new thing and new look with the poll where it doesn't look like once I post it, you can add on to it for some reason. I don't know. I need to go to my other page and see what it looks like for you guys. But yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on with the new format of the polls, but it doesn't look as user friendly as the previous setup of it. But what we're going to do as far as the Temperament series is we will be going through, as you guys have heard me say, Temperament is made up of drives, various drives, and each of those drives has various thresholds. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to break those down and we're going to break each of those drives down individually, what you should be looking for, how to breed to increase it, how to breed to decrease it, what drives you can use. I do not believe in decreasing a drive without replacing an increase on another drive. That way you keep a balance. So we're going to discuss why. We're going to be discussing how you go about that, certain drives that you can decrease and are easily replaceable by another drive that you can increase to replace that drive. Because you start bringing things down, next thing you know, dogs end up dumb, less healthy, things like that. So that's what the Temperament series is going to be starting next Tuesday. I will bring up a specific drive. We'll discuss that drive, and each Tuesday, we're going to go ahead and discuss a new drive and the thresholds within that drive, how you should go about judging them, what you should be looking for as far as young pups from birth to 8 weeks old, what you should be looking for with dogs that you bring home at 8 weeks old, all the way up until 2 years old, the things that you should be looking for. So we're going to do a Temperament series. That will start next Tuesday. And let me go through the comments real quick. Actually, let's go ahead and jump into the next topic. Also, as I do the topics, I fall behind you guys. So, for example, where are we? The last comment I saw was WKR, which was at 5:42. We're at 5:55. So I'm 13 minutes behind you guys. So when you type your comment to a specific thing, make sure to put who you're talking to, or also kind of put in your answer or whatever, your response to whatever what it was that you are speaking on. So that way, when I do get to the topics, I know what we're talking about. Let's get into it. Early neurological stimulation. The first time I heard about early neurological stimulation was several years ago. It wasn't that big of a deal. Then all of a sudden it became this big thing that a lot of breeders got into and started doing with their pups. Some breeders feel it is mandatory. It is something they live by. When you look into early neurological stimulation, what they call ENS, there are Scientists don't agree on it. And I think, and a lot of people, they say, well, the military does it with military dogs. Okay. But those who handle those dogs don't feel that they were, some of them don't feel that they were necessarily any better than the dogs that did go through early neurological stimulation. What I have found and what I've looked at with dogs that did go through ENS and those that didn't is that the person who gets the dog tends to not notice the difference between those pups and anybody else's pups. So I started wondering, why is that? Or pups that they've had before. What early neurological stimulation is, and even though is basically you're taking young pups from the ages of 3 to 10, and you take Q-tips and you rub the bottom of the feet between the pads, between the toes. You bring different temperatures to the dog. You know, you might take a Q-tip and put it on the dog for 3 to 5 seconds, see how it responds. You might heat your hands up as quick as possible, and then you put those on the dog to see his response. People will use different smells, the smell of an orange, the smell of a lemon, the smell of an apple. What it is thought to believe is that the earlier you do these things with a pup and you bring these different stressors to a pup, the better they deal with stresses when they leave and they get out to their homes. I 100% disagree with those scientists and their findings. And here's why I would say, as a scientist, one, your objective is to get paid for whatever your studies are, to get loans and funding for whatever your studies are. So if you find somebody, whether they run the military, our government, whether they want to be a dog trainer, whatever it may be, as a scientist, if I want to get paid, then just like any other business, I'm going to make sure that my end results come out with what you want. So if you notice, when COVID first came out, scientists were saying it was real, scientists were saying it wasn't real, scientists were saying it's real, but you can easily fix it with that. If you notice, all of them disappeared when it started to become known that, okay, this is a real thing. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to concepts, ideas, different ideologies. So if I'm a military sergeant and I say, I need to know if there's a way we can better our dogs, and this guy says, yeah, teach them to do jumping jacks. This guy says, yeah, teach them to do backflips. And this guy says, no, if you take them at an early age and start stimulating them early, you're going to get the better dogs. Who sounds like they're right? I'm going to sound like I'm right because I'm talking about doing something with these dogs at an early age. So then I'm going to do studies based off this. Here's the problem with studies, or that type of study, is we don't know what they study. So if I got somebody that says, hey, I want you to prove that Chihuahuas are the best fighting dogs. Okay, cool. I'm going to do some studies, and then I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to say, okay, I had the Chihuahua put on some boxing gloves, and it fought this animal and this animal and this animal, and the Chihuahua won 9 out of 10 rounds. What you didn't ask, if you didn't ask the right questions, is, okay, but what was he fighting? Roaches, mice, hamsters? You get what I'm saying? So we don't ask the right details about scientific studies, then we're not going to know what's true. So when it comes to early neurological stimulation, here's going to be the problem. Think about a science lab and a scientist. I'm going to take these 5 puppies over here, and I'm going to do my concept of early neurological stimulation with them. And with these pups over here, I'm not going to do that same process. And then he does this and he comes back and he says, hey, the puppies that I did early neurological stimulation with seem to adjust to their homes better than the others did. They like to say that they explored better. They tended to be more explorative. They got along better with humans. But what they're not saying is this: I handled the pups that I did the study with more than I did the pups that I didn't do the study with. It's the handling that made them better, not the Q-tip, not the ice cube, not the various scents and aromas that you gave to the dog. It's the handling. Here's why we know that. You can do whatever you want to a puppy's paws, in between his toes with a Q-tip, all that. As soon as those pups reach an age where they're moving around and playing, those other pups are what cause the stimulation of the pup. The mom is what causes the stimulation of the pup. You picking a pup up to bottle feed it and nurse it is what causes stimulation of the pup. So this whole early neurological stimulation, in my opinion, since a bunch of you have asked me about it, it's fraudulent. Now, imprinting is something that I think is great for pups before they go to homes. Um, so, for instance, I will start to teach pups to stay. I will start potty training pups before they go to whatever homes they're going to, just so that I teach them to stay so that the pups understand obedience. Now, when they get to their home, that gravitates into sit, roll over, whatever else you want to teach the dog. But it teaches the dog to start to understand my vocal commands. So that's what I do for the people who get pups from us. Another basic thing that I do is I start to potty train the pups. Do they perfect it before they leave? Some do. Some don't, but they all at least understand the concept of it. So my kennel is set up to do that the pups are in. And then I work on moving them to where they're supposed to pee and poop if I see them doing it in an area that I don't want them to. Now, they can do it, it's fine. The reason I do that is to get them ready for the homes that they go to, teaching commands, teaching where to use the bathroom, and so that they understand the flow of environments. And then other than that, when it's all said and done, all the stimulation that a puppies need come from their litter mates and their mom. They come from us handling them and playing with them, our children playing with them, things like that. These things should be done as soon as the pups are born. If you don't need to feed them, then they should at least start getting done. And because the mom is handling it, then they should at least start getting done around 4 weeks old so that pups get used to the human touch. You got to remember, all animals are defined in how they move their body and how they move objects in their way or that they want. Dogs move their body. Humans move our body with 2 legs, and we move objects with our 2 hands. Dogs move their body with four legs, and they move objects with their mouth. So we do need to get them used to the human hand by touching them. And luckily, for some of us who are bottle feeding and things like that, the dog is automatically getting that stimulation. As far as holding pups upside down, they're going to learn that when they're and flipping them on their back and put all these other things that they do for like 3 seconds in early neurological stimulation. They're going to get that when they roughhouse with their litter mates. You know, what's worse, me putting you on your back or their litter mate putting them on their back and actually won't get off of them. So really, I think the whole ENS science is bullshit. They get all that from their litter mates. To me, when you know dogs, that whole process doesn't make sense. As far as different smells, my daughter loves wearing perfume. If she's helping feed the pups, then guess what they're smelling? Her perfume. I wear deodorant. If I'm going to feed the pups, they smell my deodorant. When I touch them with my hand, they smell the thing. They smell my natural scent plus whatever else I've been touching. So all that stuff comes naturally with you just being a breeder and them just being alive. So to me, early neurological stimulation was a great idea if I'm somebody that wants to make money off of my idea, because most people don't know and aren't going to look into it any deeper. And it's also a great idea because it makes, fur moms and people, that are using dogs to fill a void or to make themselves feel more intelligent. It gives them something that they can know, but does it really help the pups? So far, most scientists are stating that they don't notice a difference between pups that did early neurological stimulation and pups that did not, but were still handled by the person, picking them up, petting them, just regular things that we do with young pups. So that would be my feedback on that. That's the end of that topic. We're going to go ahead and get into the let's see. Total Bully Kennel said, isn't a pit bull Amstaff mix an original bull? Because I have a 108-pound girl, fits all the bully standards. So just want to know, and she's an F3 breeding. Okay. It is impossible. Okay. In order to create a breed, you need at least 2 other breeds. Some people say you need 3. I do believe you can create an outbred bull lurcher, crossing pit bulls to greyhounds. So in order to, and that was a total different look, okay, than the pit bull and the greyhound. So in order to create a breed, you need 2 different breeds, and then it has to have its own look, and the productions from that have to have their own look, their own temperament, their own ability. So in breeding bull lurchers, you got the pit bull over here. Most of the time, we would be using great game bred pits, and then you got the greyhound or the what's another one that they would use? I can't. My mind just went blank. But anyway, you bring them together, and now you got a dog that's not as tall as the greyhound, but taller than the pit bull. Not as fast as the greyhound, but faster than the pit bull. Same prey drive is there. And that's the whole purpose in these dogs. It has a little bit more bone to it and muscle, so it doesn't injure itself as much as a greyhound would on certain types of land. But you end up creating its own breed. So in order to be its own breed, it has to have at least two different breeds. Plus, it has to have its own look, its own temperament, and its own ability to separate it from the breeds that you use. When you take the problem with that is when you take the pit bull and the Amstaff. The Amstaff is the pit bull, but bred for show. Okay, pit bull was bred for work, fighting to be specific. The Amstaff was bred for show. The story behind that is you had the pit bull. You had people who said they wanted to take it to another level. Colby was one of those people. Colby was one of the best marketing people, breeders in the dog game that the dog game has ever seen. So he along with others, were able to convince the AKC to take on the pit bull. But the AKC said, we won't do it if the word pit is in there because it reflects fighting. So we know that these dogs originally started from the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Then they were crossed with various other breeds, bulldogs, various hounds, other terriers, to create what we have today as the American Pit Bull Terrier. Then the AKC said, we'll take it on, but change the name. So they changed it to several names. American Staffordshire Terrier is what stuck. And it was bred for show. So it increased in size, it increased in bone, all those things that people like when it comes to the look and of a show dog. So, and if you notice, most show dogs of all breeds tend to be larger than the actual true form of the breed, especially the working class dogs. So because of that, you can't take a pit bull, breed it to an Amstaff, and claim you have a new breed, because the Amstaff is the pit bull, but bred for a different purpose, which is looks and aesthetics. So you can't breed those two breeds together and claim. Now, they have separated over time. We do know that the Amstaff has lost some of that human tolerance that the pit bull had, and so in the heat of pit bull was bred to be tolerant to the human head in the heat of combat, the human hand in the heat of combat. The Amstaff has lost that. The Amstaff has lost the gameness. The pit bulls and all pit bulls, fighting pit bulls, even winners weren't necessarily game. They just had another technique that was came to them genetically. Gameness was just a strategy used in the fight ring. So if you had a dog that was bully or was bulldogging dogs, meaning he was just out muscling them. So it didn't matter how game they were. He just applied too much damage that gameness was not a factor. But the reason gameness was so valued is because if I got a dog that's bulldogging dogs, or it's a dancer where it's extremely agile, and I can get gameness into it too without messing up the talent that it already has. That's why gameness was so valued. So a dog that lost but still proved that it was willing to fight was always more valued than even the dog that beat it, because you could take that dog now and breed it to your dogs and include gameness as a strategy along with whatever strategies that dog naturally fought under. So to say breeding a pit bull to an Amstaff makes a whole new breed, no, that's impossible. You breed a pit, since an Amstaff is just a watered down pit bull. If you breed a pit bull to an Amstaff, you're just recreating the Amstaff. You just might get a little bit more of that pit bull that you bred to's genetics, stamina, determination, prey drive, things like that. So no, that doesn't make a bully. You're not gonna get the bone, the mass, that wide rib cage, the large head by breeding those two together. So hopefully that answers your question, kind of gives you insight on that. Ashley said, agree, kibble's definitely a filler. I 100%. I always add other things to it, other meats, veggies, things like that. Green Line Kennel said, would breeding a pocket to a classic be a good move for confirmation in the pocket class? If I was going to do that, if I had a pocket and I wanted to, and I found a classic that has great structure, I would hope that classic is as short as possible. So you figure the pocket, how do they break down again? The pocket is 14 to 17 inches. The classic is 17 to 20 inches. So I would try to find a classic that is closer to the 17 to 20 inch mark. Breed those. Here's the problem with that. You're going to have an inconsistent litter. Some of your dogs are going to be pockets. Some of your dogs are going to be classics. And now you're going to go back to having to breed for size. So I would say if I was you, I would try to find a pocket that has the structure that you're looking and the conformation that you're looking for. If for whatever reasons you can't, but you know this classic that does, then yeah, go to that classic. But understand that when it comes to class and size, you're going to be setting yourself back. Now, here's a plus to that. You may lose or gain height that you didn't want. Also gain some mass that is cool in the classic field. So you could easily do that breeding and make some dope ass pockets plus some dope ass classics. You just got to decide from that litter who you're going to take and what route you want to go, because that's going to be hard to tell until those dogs start growing. And just to give you an example, King was like one of the smallest dogs in his litter. He grew up to be the biggest dog from that litter and the biggest dog that his dad has ever produced. So you just never know. If you're in a position where you can keep the whole litter and watch them develop, I wouldn't have a problem with doing it. Rob, what's up, brother? Thanks for joining in. What is that? Total Bully Kennels is in the house representing Milwaukee. Fatima said, my dog will be pet home. I prefer pet homes. I think if you sell a dog to a breeder, that means they're buying other dogs. And I don't want to sell my pup to a breeder and it just ends up in a kennel for breeding purposes. Like I said, I'm new to bullies. And that's one of my concerns with selling pups to bully breeders is that I sell them a pup. They buy a pup from me. They buy a pup from DDK9. They get one from BGK and they get one from Bossy. And next thing you know, my pup is sitting in a kennel and only being used for breeding purposes. So I prefer pet homes. And then just letting them know like, hey, if I need to breed this dog, can I? And some people, they might get a female from me and they don't want to deal with a pregnant female. It just is what it is. We'll move on. I think sometimes people take the mechanics of breeding more serious than they take the art of breeding. And that's what we kind of lose out on. But that's one of my concerns being in the bully community, selling dogs on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be, is that you sell it to a breeder and this dog does not get treated as a pet. So that's one of my concerns. Ashley said, you know what? I know, huh? Belinda, I don't see her in here today. Not sure. I have to hit her up, make sure she's doing okay. Simply Selling Bully said, what's up, Thor? I have a quick question. If your bully is possibly pregnant, do you still fast your female? No. Do not fast a pregnant female. Once she is done with the pups, as far as nursing the pups, then you can go back to fasting. I would probably still give her another month. And then, once everything's back normal, then go ahead and start fasting her. But no, do not feed the female during her pregnancy or while she's whelping your pups. Belle is probably driving home. Okay. Was she out of town? I've been off of Facebook for a minute. I kind of got back into it over the last couple of days, but I was out of town. And then for whatever reasons, I haven't been feeling Facebook as much as recent since I got back from Arkansas, or as previously since I got back from Arkansas. So I'll definitely check on her. Let's see here. Rose says, Simply Southern Bullies, I wouldn't do it. She could absorb the puppies. Agreed, 100%. You do not want her lacking nutrients while those pups are in her. When do you start counting days? You start counting your days from the breeding. The only reason we suspect my buddy wasn't being, there was a debate we all had previous to him doing the breeding, and we kind of have a feeling he was using his days and what he was telling us to back up what he was saying in the debate that we were all having. But as soon as you do that breeding, you start the count. Let's say I breed them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I do the breeding. Then I would start counting my days from Wednesday so that you're as close to what possibly happened as possible. Let's see. And then also, they do progesterone, reverse progesterone test so that you'll know when she should be ready. But you also kind of notice you'll see her nesting and doing different little things. I said you want her to get as much nutrients as possible. Exactly. Rose said they got stuck on the 15th of February. So if I stuck on the 15th of February, that's when I would start the counting the days from there. And it's usually going to be 63 days, 60 to 63 days. Against the Grain Bully said, not until I use this pure Cottingham stuff. I know what you're talking about. Looking forward to the next McCormick Thor Live. Yeah, for those that don't know, Rob and I go live every Friday on Facebook and also on YouTube. Rob has a Robert McCormick YouTube page. Check that out. And we go live from there every Friday. Now, the Friday lives, we let everybody come on. Most of us have been drinking before it gets started. We can have one topic, and within 15 minutes, that topic is out the window, and we just having a good time. We stick to talking dogs. People join on, they show their dogs, but the Friday live is a good time. If you have questions and you put them in the comments, we will answer them. We might not even see them. It's just a free-for-all. It's a dog free-for-all when we do the live on Fridays. We do it at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday, so definitely check that out. It is not on my YouTube page. It is on Robert McCormick's YouTube page. But I always share it. If you go on Facebook, I always share it, so you'll be able to see it on my Daryl Thrower Facebook page. But yeah, that live is a free-for-all. It tends to end with us XL breeders arguing with exotic breeders about who has the best dogs. That's how it tends to end. But it's exotic breeders, pocket breeders, XLs. We've had Bandog breeders, pit bull breeders on there. It's just a dog live, but it's a free-for-all. It is not one of those lives that you want to have on your computer speakers or on your TV. I've come across several people that watch me on their TV. If you got kids around, that's not the live for it. We get to cussing, arguing, and everything that you can imagine on the Friday night lives. It's a Friday night free-for-all. Let's see. Especially, I love that drive discussions. Yes, we're going to be focused on that starting next Tuesday. My Bailey score high last time. There you go. Let's see. Simply said, Rose Kennels, thanks so much. Bam, bam. Let's see here. Yes, Rhodes does have a channel. I forget what it's called, but he does have a channel. So, Rhodes, make sure you put that in the comments so they know. Spirit said, isn't it supposed to help you judge temperament? I mean, yes, you stimulate, but it's their reaction you're judging. No. Early neurological stimulation, to me, does not do anything for temperament. Temperament is a developmental thing as those genetics develop. Now, I do like to do things with pups, especially when they hit 4 to 6 weeks old, to judge their temperament as far as their determination. And those are things we'll bring up during the series, watching them, how they operate with other pups. I'll use, you guys will see me show my little red light beam here. Watching which pups go after it. I will also use a small spring pole or flirt pole and, and with a feather at the end, seeing which pups go after it, who goes after it the hardest when they're in a group, and it's the whole litter, who goes after it the longest when I just have them as individually. So when I do temperament testing with pups, that's what I'm looking for. I don't think the ENS, early neurological stimulation, really lets you know the temperament of them. And when I look at the scientists who talk about it, they don't talk about temperament and drives. And this is why I think the whole early neurological stimulation thing is bullshit. Temperament is broken down into drives, like I was saying earlier. Each of those drives has a threshold. So the only way you really truly know the temperament of your dog for various situations is to test the threshold of those drives. Early neurological stimulation does not do that. And most of the things that early neurological stimulation does do, the pup is going to automatically go through those things in that first, and within 4 to 6 weeks, when it starts really heavy dealing with its litter mates and its mom. You bring in other people in the house, other smells. You're playing with the pup. Kids are playing with the pup. Mom's playing with the pup. Dad's playing with the pup. All these things end up giving you those same stimulations. So no, now, and let's say I live in Alaska, but I breed pup, or I breed in California, but I'm selling pups to somebody in Alaska. So therefore I think that putting a cold ice cube on the pup for 3 seconds is going to help it adjust to Alaska. Bullshit. That pup's going to adjust to Alaska when it gets to Alaska. So I just think that the whole ENS, early neurological stimulation, somebody made a great deal of money off of it, and I think it was a great scam. And now, if it gets a person to handle their puppies more, then great, so be it. You know what I mean? But as far as the science behind it and what they're claiming it does, I don't believe it. I think it's bull, and there's some scientist that got paid a great deal of money to continue his studies of it. So, Rose Eric Maxwell, same way my name is spelled on here. Let's see. Yeah, you guys check out. So, Rose Kennel's Behemoth Bloodline. Check that out on YouTube. He's got a page where he does a lot with his dogs. He posts a lot on his YouTube page, which is something I'll be doing once we get to Arkansas. But definitely check it out. He's got some good stuff on there, and I love what he's doing with his program. Being able to place pup with best home or training. No. You're going to learn that by the way it deals with its litter mates and by the ways it deals with you or your household. That's what will let you know. ENS is not really going to let you know those things. The other thing is, when I look at ENS, it's constantly evolved to battle the science that says it doesn't do anything. So to me, if it has to constantly evolve, then is it really a science? It's just you trying to keep up with people like me, the naysayers. So I just don't think it's a true thing. Let's see, you're gonna check out after live. Do you also go live on regular? Yeah, definitely. You guys check out Rhodes Kennels. He does have a YouTube. I got to jump on there more, but definitely check him out and what he's doing. Solo Bully said, I believe it's real. I've noticed the difference is my pit. She was only on sight. If she loses it, it's gone. My bully, who has ESI, if she loses sight, she drops that nose and will find it off scent. It's amazing. But part of scent, getting the dog to drop its nose to the ground, which means she would have probably done that no matter what. You also got to remember the bully has more breeds in it than the pit bull does. So the pit bull is a sight-driven dog. So they're not going to look for things as much or put their nose to the ground as much. For example, Floyd. Floyd was always focused on sight because that was all he was used for. He was on, sight and hearing. Those were the things that I worked with him on as a pup because I knew he was going to be going after things based off sight. I also knew he would be going after things based off him being able to hear my dogs barking at whatever they had caught or surrounded. And so that was his focus. When cats would be on the other side of the wall that they couldn't see, it was my other dogs that smelt it. It wasn't Floyd, because Floyd's waiting until he sees something or hears something. So a lot of that comes with the breed, and that dropping the nose to the ground. A lot of that, you got to, a dog that automatically drops its nose to the ground, that comes from instinct, not because of what you stimulated it to do while you had it on its back. When it dropped its nose, or had it in your hand, when it dropped its nose to the ground, that was something they learned after a while. A pit bull is going to learn, like, because it's a dog, to drop its nose to the ground to find scent, but it tends to be less interested in what it is. It tends to smell for something, and when it finds it, it was just some poop, or it was just a smell, or it was this toy, but I wasn't into that toy. So they're different breeds, so there's going to be a different interest in it. Rose said, I got a lot of good content from interviews to how I clean, feed, and work my dogs. There you go. And Zarata said, I agree. I think it's the handling of the pups at a young age, not the specific items. 100%. You summed it up better than I did. That it's the handling, because you got to remember, when a scientist is doing this, he's got pups he's going to be handling to do ENS. And he's got pups he's not going to be handling because he wants to separate those from the ones he does ENS with. So it's not the ENS, it's the handling that makes those pups better. Imprinting young pups are key. Now, imprinting is definitely something that I think we want to do, but imprinting is more squeezing on paws, squeezing on ears, grabbing the pup by the tail, pulling on its fur, getting it to tolerate those type of stressors. And even their litter mates are going to help with that. We just want to do it specifically with our fingers. So imprinting is different. One of the things I do, I'll throw a blanket over pups, see how determined they are to get through it. Now, with bullies, most of my dogs won't be going to working homes. They'll be going to protection homes, or people that want, dogs that are protective. So therefore, I'll do things like throwing the blanket over the pup just to analyze its determination, and then keep an eye on those pups and how they develop with me or how they developed in the homes that they go to. But imprinting is true temperament testing, things like that. That does affect those dogs in the homes that they go to. I just don't believe ENS necessarily does. I think they found a cool name to give it and it clicked. Eric said, cool, because I'm always looking for something to see how others do things. I see how you are in the chat and figured I would learn a thing or two from you. Yes, definitely check out Rhodes. Let's see here. What else do we got? Whippets, yes, they will use whippets, but there's another one that has a little Salukis. They will also use Salukis. What I always wanted to, matter of fact, did any of us cross to the whippet? I don't believe. I think everybody used the Greyhound, but I know of others that prefer Salukis over Greyhounds in the crossing to the pit bulls. And some preferred to cross to American Bulldogs rather than pit bulls, as long as they were working. Fatima, your voice is muffled when you move certain ways. It was also happening on Raul's. It might be my earphones. Let me throw on both of them just in case that's what it is. Or my ear pods or plugs or whatever they call it. And hopefully that makes it better. Anytime I ever did APBT to Amstaff, I ended up with better pups, in my opinion. I was having the argument they're two different dogs genetically since the late 80s, and they never got it. Yeah, they're definitely two different dogs. The Amstaff is even now more susceptible to some diseases and ailments that the pit bull, when bred for working, is no longer susceptible to. I think if you do that cross, you're more looking for a temperamental change or an ability change. But as far as creating a new breed, you can't cross the APBT to the Amstaff and create a new breed. Rob said, oh shit, another series is dope. Last one was fire. Yes, definitely check out. The last series I did was with Robert McCormick and KTK Bullies and Andre of BGK Bullies. Check out that series. It's when I first started using YouTube, so check it out. It's towards the beginning of that, but it's strictly on marketing. Robert and Andre are marketing geniuses, especially when it comes to online promotions and the ways to use all these tools that Facebook and Instagram and YouTube provide us, how to word things. They always get on me because I never do it right. But once we move, I'm going to be getting more focused on those type of things, and I'm going to start by going back to that series and watching it. It was dope because interviewing both of them about marketing, they knew about it. I didn't know anything about it. So a lot of the questions that people had in the comments, I had those very same questions. And it was dope, you know what I mean, to learn those things. And there's things that because I'm interviewing, I can't write down and take notes. So I need to go back and rewatch it. So definitely check that out. Hold on, let me share this real quick. It doesn't look like it went live correctly. Hold on, give me just a second. That's weird. Facebook is making changes to things. But yeah, so definitely check that out. What's weird is it's not showing, it's showing the live on Facebook, but it's not showing the live. It's like it's showing an advertisement for the live. What does that do? Okay, and it takes you straight into it. So that's weird. But yeah, check out the marketing series. It was a 4-part series on webs. I think it was one part was Facebook, another part was Instagram, another part was YouTube. I think we also did one on websites, and then I think the final was like a conclusion of the whole thing. So definitely check out the marketing series. Let's see, Rose, I'm gonna lock you in for an interview. Robert McCormick, definitely. Let's see. On the interview, like your story, fam. There you go. Check out. Rob's got a lot of knowledge. He talks about marketing because that's his favorite thing. But as far as nutrition, training, things like that, Rob's got a lot of knowledge. It was something he studied for years, and he has a great understanding of it. And what most people don't know is Rob was actually breeding American bullies years ago. Now he breeds exotics because he's weird, but now he breeds exotics. But Rob has a lot of bully breedings. And what's funny is you'll see people argue with him in the bully community, not realizing they have some of his dogs in their blood. And I always get a kick out of that. Let's see. Eric said blanket thrown over a pup is one of the best challenges for young pups. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It not only shows you the determination of those pups, but those pups that tend to kind of give up. Always make sure to take the blanket off them just before they give up, give them a break, and then kind of do it again to help them learn to build that determination. But my original reasons in doing it is to kind of see who got whose genetics and how those genetics are showing themselves in the pups. Let's see here. Okay, Robin Rhodes is having a conversation. That makes a lot of sense. This is why I watch you, says Solo. Thank you for that. Yes, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure you have subscribed to the YouTube channel. Except for you guys that I know y'all like to watch me because y'all haters, but you don't want me knowing that you watching. You don't have to subscribe. But everybody else, go ahead and subscribe. So it said, would you try hunting with a socialized dog? Yes, I believe so. For instance, when I was doing breedings for dogs that were best for protection, some of the litter would be best for protection, some of the litter would be best for hunting. And I used to decipher that by those who like to socialize. Those who like to socialize were the ones that I would utilize for hunting. That way, because like for instance, Floyd, he was just an extremely animal aggressive dog. So it sucked for hunting because if somebody else wanted to bring their dogs, there was a great chance that he was going to attack their dog at some point. And Floyd was like that at an early age. So that was one of the things that I didn't like about Floyd, and tried to water that down a little bit in some of his breedings with Sasha, and which did take place. He only had, I think, one pup with her that turned out just like him. But yeah, I definitely feel the hunting dogs are the better ones that are more socialized. That way you can handle those dogs in the heat of the moment. Dogs that aren't as social, a little more reserved from the litter than other pups, tend to do great in protection. My German short hair keeps his nose on the ground. See, and they're hunting dogs. That's what they're for. We got a beautiful German short hair pointer across the street from us, and they don't hunt him. He just stays. I don't even think they walk him, to tell you the truth. I've never seen him outside his backyard. But because they live. So it's us, it's them, and then it's a field behind them. So I know they get a lot of critters in there coming from the field. So I'm sure he's still satisfied with life, even though he don't leave the yard. But he does have a pretty big size yard. But I've never seen him leave the yard. But I'm sure between the raccoons, possums, squirrels, rabbits, I'm sure he gets a lot of excitement though. Rhodes, if you're new here, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Yes. To stay updated on all Thor Bullies content. Yes, make sure you hit that little bell on YouTube. You'll see it. And then that way, anytime I go live on Facebook, which I'm going to be doing a lot of in the next few months, live on YouTube, you'll get notified. My bully goes after deer, raccoons, birds, but I've always recall her. I'm afraid she won't know what to do once she gets to it. My pit, laugh out loud, will hit anything, one bite kill. Exactly. And that's funny you say that. That is the difference. You know, with Cardi, she and Justice, they're the only two that we've used for any type of work. Cardi has done bite work. But if she hasn't gotten into it with anything that I could think of yet. So if she were to get into it with a raccoon, I know she can handle it, but she hasn't come across that opportunity yet. She's killed a few gophers, things like that. Justice we used for hunting, but she was only tracking. She went bear hunting, but she was only used for tracking, so she remained on leash the entire time. But you know, as far as like, you know, people forget raccoons can fight. You know, and if it's not in it for you to fight, raccoon will mess around and whoop your dog's butt. Let's see, Sinatra, what's up, man? Thanks for joining in. Solo say, anyone catch that AKC agility show, dogs moving? I'd rather see dogs in action, no offense. I agree. I do like watching the agility shows. I just think if you're not gonna do anything with the dogs and you're a breeder, you need to find something to do with the dogs. And I think agility is a great. I think it is a great platform for a person to judge their breedings that they're doing for agility. Now, if you're just breeding a dog because I've got border collies, I like border collies, so I'm going to breed border collies, but they're not hunting, herding, not hunting, but they're not. Well, even hunting they can, but they're not herding, doing agility. I think there needs to be a reason beyond breeding dogs that we breed. You know what I mean? And that reason, that purpose should be based off the breed that we have, you know. And I think that is how we create the better dogs, and that is how we better breeds. I hate when I see people saying they're bettering the breed, but the only thing they're doing is breeding for aesthetics. You're not bettering the breed, you're just bettering your dog to be sold to other humans. I think we all should come up with a purpose, even if that purpose is just being able to play fetch across a long yard 10 times. Then breed for that. That way, when you get a dog that you know can only do it 5 times, you don't breed to it. I just think we have to give our dogs, find a purpose for our dogs that is related to the species, not necessarily the breed, and then equate that purpose to the breed and how we go about and how you go about breeding it to actually make it better. But there's no such thing as breeding a dog for aesthetics and saying that you're bettering the breed, unless those dogs have a lot of flaws. Now, if they got a lot of flaws, and that's different. But then you need to question, should you be breeding that dog in the first place? Let's see. Rose said, I'm only on Facebook and YouTube. There you go. Pretty Eye Pitch says, so what is a two people aggressive American bully? Seems like it's more of an owner thing versus a breed thing. The temperament of the breed is all over the place because they never focused on that. The look of the breed is all over the place because too many people have their opinion of what they want, and then everybody's calling it American bullies. To me, anything that is too aggressive, I think all dogs should have a certain amount of civil drive. You don't want it overly high, though. And when I say civil drive, I mean a dog that is willing to bite a human. Now, a dog that has high civil drive will bite a human for no reason. And I'm not talking about the dog that's barking behind a fence. I'm talking about me and my dog are chilling. You approach, my dog bites you. That's that is a higher form of civil drive. The highest form of civil drive is a dog that has been protection trained, and you can just be sitting there reading a newspaper, and I could just say get him, and strictly because I pointed at you, that dog goes and makes a full-on attack without being agitated at all. But civil drive is the layers or thresholds of dogs that are willing to attack without agitation, all the way down to the bottom with dogs that will attack for agitation. I look at overly aggressive as a dog that bites without a actual threat. Whether it's because he's fearful, but it wasn't threatening, or whether it's because he's protective and defensive and this person still wasn't a threat. The dog miscalculated, and that's why intelligence has to always be bred into dogs, and that's why we have to find purposes for our dogs so that we know, even in training, and we have to pay attention. If I'm training this dog and he learns it fast, when I train this dog, he learns it slow. Who do I want to be a part of my program when I'm breeding for intelligence? All these things need to be thought about when we are breeding. As far as a dog being too people aggressive, to me, that is a dog that somebody cannot walk past. That's a dog I have a problem with when it becomes aggressive, whether it's being protective and defensive or whether it's being fearful and defensive. A dog that might bite somebody because they reach out to pet it, and I didn't give them permission to pet it, and I also didn't give him permission to bite. That's an issue I would have also, but I'm not as concerned with that. I think that's something that's easy to breed away from. A dog that fully is, when you have a dog that bites for no reason or is fearful, I don't want my dog to attack strangers. I don't want my dog to attack kids because kids move funny. Those are the things that I'm concerned with. So with me breeding an American Bully, which is what you brought up, they do say, the ABKC, that the dog should be friendly with people. And your dog should be able to be friendly with people, with strangers, with children. That's what this breed was created for. And I think we all have to respect that. At the same time, the dog should be intelligent enough to know when something is a threat. And it should kind of start recognizing it when you recognize it, if not before. And it should be able to, and it should also have the confidence to put itself between me and that threat. I don't want a dog that when I'm walking it, I get attacked by a dog and all my dog does is run in circles, barking at the other dog or nipping at it. I want it to be a full-on engagement, a full-on combat. I don't want a dog that if I get attacked by a human for whatever reasons, this dog does the same thing. It runs in circles barking, but it doesn't take on that human, lock on and fully engage in combat. So there's a measure of confidence that has to come along with defensive and protection drives. So as far as two people aggressive, my thing would be a dog that is unwilling to accept strangers, gets nervous when you're walking past strangers. I can't introduce people to this dog, children, people, things like that. Those are dogs that I feel are overly aggressive. Now, there are some dogs that are supposed to be that way. For instance, band dogs. There are some band dogs that are not supposed to like anybody outside of their family. When guests come to the house, the dog is put away. When there's no one at the house and it's just the family, husband, wife, kids, then the dog is roaming the house because there's no issues. So that's kind of the way I look at it. So it depends on what you're breeding for. When it comes to American Bullies, I would say I want a dog that is protective, is confident in its ability to engage physically to protect, but at the same time can be introduced to strangers. And a lot of that has to do with the way you socialize that dog earlier in ages. What I kind of tell people is, if you got a Rottweiler or you got a Floyd pup from me, these dogs are going to be a little different. I know how those dogs are going to respond regardless of how you socialize them. When it comes to bullies, like I advise people who have gotten litters from us, is if you're looking for what you know me for, then don't socialize the dog for 6 to 8 months and then start taking it out. If you're just looking, you just like the pup because it's cute and you want to buy it, then start socializing the dog early. But if you're looking for, a dog that's protective, like I tell people, keep the dog home. Don't socialize it for 6 to 8 months. When you walk the dog, take it to stores, people want to pet it, you tell them no. The dog's in training. And that dog will then start to pick up a lack of trust for people outside of its home. People have to understand that has nothing to do with the people who are a part of the pack in the home. You know what I mean? They're two different things to a dog, and they should be two different things for us. I don't need to socialize my dog so that is good around my kids. So that's the way I kind of look at it. But it depends on how you're breeding. If you're breeding American Bullies and they do tend to be a little more aggressive, then they're going to need to start that socialization period earlier than the 6 to 8 months. But yeah, anything that wants to attack, that calls itself an American bully and wants to attack strangers and can't be pet when by somebody who is invited to pet it, that's when you're getting a little too far when it comes to aggression. Eric said, Robert McCormick, the DNA testing issue you brought up yesterday on QB&K Live was having a registry pick a local vet and having a vet take pics of the dogs being tested, fix what you brought up. That was, I thought Rob's idea yesterday on that was actually very good. I just think that when it comes to these registries, I don't think we can get them to make that type of commitment, especially as a registry. Now, eventually, bully breeders need to formulate a breed club. Some people feel that UKC should be the registry and ABKC should be the breed club. I disagree with that due to the fact we're still making this breed and ABKC is the one putting on shows and everything. But eventually we need a breed club that handles those type of things so that the registries don't have to worry about. Remember, registries are strictly here to handle paperwork. That's it. If people lie on it, it is what it is. If they get caught lying, then it's reported to the registry and the registry cancels their paperwork if they, through whatever process they have approving it. But yeah, I thought Rob's idea yesterday was pretty dope. And Zarata said, my bully likes to socialize with other dogs and she has prey drive and protection drive. See, that's perfection. That's what we should be expecting from the bully. I think the problem with the bully is we have a lot of new breeders that really don't understand dogs. They have low expectations and low standards of dogs. And anything that they don't know or understand, rather than learning it, they pretend it's not necessary. And that is why as time goes by, even in the trainings that I've done with people, a lot of times it's the bullies that lack intelligence, and they'll say, see how stubborn it is. And as a client, I'm not going to tell you, no, it's not stubborn, it's dumb. But I'm going to charge you more for the time that it took to train your dumb bully that just isn't catching on. But so that becomes the issue. And so I agree. You're 100% right. I think when it comes to ABKC, if you notice, their original standard had an ability in it. That only ability was that the dog should be agile. If you notice now, that's removed. There's no ability in the standard whatsoever. The UKC does state that the dog should be able to compete and perform. So whether it's frisbee catching, weight pulling, the dog should be able to perform in different types of dog events. Whereas for whatever reasons, the ABKC has totally removed ability from the written standard of the dog. And Zarata said, how do I learn about thresholds and drives to judge future pups? I'm breeding my girl this summer and want to be able to judge pups' temperament. That's what we're going to get on next week. We're going to start on the temperament series where we will discuss drives and their thresholds. The way to look at it is this. All dogs have the exact same drives. The only difference is the thresholds of those drives. That's what separates breeds, and that's what separates individual dogs based off the breeders within a breed. And so we're going to get into that. That's going to be a heavy aspect of it. But thresholds, you do it by testing. I would say the majority of thresholds are tested by by intensity and tested by time. For instance, I can take a pup, bring out my little mini flirt pole with a feather, and I might have one pup that will chase it for 5 minutes. I might have another pup that will chase it for 3 minutes. But the pup that chases it for 3 minutes chases it more intensely than the pup that chases it for 5 minutes. So that's how we have to look at thresholds, and that's how we have to equivalate that threshold to that drive. If I've got dogs that lack stamina, the pup that chased it less intensely Might be the pup but chase it for longer, might be the pup that I'm looking for. Because stamina is not just, a lot of times we say I ran out of stamina and it's our lungs, but you can ask my son who fights MMA. It's not always just lungs, it's muscle stamina too. So if I need a pup and I need more stamina in my yard, and this pup chases longer than this one, he might be the pup I want to use. But now I've also got to beware because he didn't chase it as intensely as this other pup who didn't chase it for as long. So hopefully that gives you kind of an example. But typically, thresholds are measured by time and measured by intensity. Those are typically the two things. And I know as soon as we get off the live, I'm going to come up with some other ones. But those are typically the main two. Dom said, Rose, I subscribe to you. I like the content. WKR said, my pointer has 1 groundhog and 4 possums under his belt so far. No game birds. There you go. A lot of people don't realize, but the pointer and hounds, some hounds went into creating the pit bull. And I believe that the pointer is how we got a lot of the structure and colors that come to the pit bull. Especially when you're talking about the game dogs. And of course, that just means they bred it to a hound or a pointer for more lung stamina and expansion, and then bred it back into their fighting lines. But if you look at some dogs like Mayday, for instance, and you look at Grand Champion Mayday, and he has a low ear set. Well, you're not going to find that ear set in any bulldogs. You're not going to find that ear set in any terriers. You're only going to find that ear set in hounds. Not to say that Mayday's granddaddy or daddy or anything like that was a hound, but there's some hound in there somewhere, and he's just one of those pups that picked up on it in their ear set. But yeah, I think I love pointers. That's one of my favorite breeds that I've never owned. Down I appreciate it, brother. Let's see what else we got in here. Another Facebook one showed in, topping in from Ohio. It's just not showing the names, but up until now, it wasn't even showing Facebook comments, so that's cool. Eric Maxwell said temperaments can also be affected by how much the owner allows those temperaments to be practiced or suppressed. But at times of stress, or excitement, true temperaments can come out and surprise the owner. Exactly. And that's why, as a breeder, you want to start testing those pups early. Some of that testing is going to be by you. Some of that testing is going to just be by you watching that pup and how it operates with other pups in multiple situations. So, for instance, you got a pup that's dominant. You want to put him with your dominant pup, separate them for a day, see how they do. And does he want to still remain dominant? You have pups that are less dominant, put them around each other and see which ones all of a sudden start to develop a dominant trait or start to develop dominance in them. And that'll give you an idea of their thresholds and what they're willing to be tested by. Once they leave the litter and they leave you as a breeder, their environment is what's going to take over the rest. But those drives come with the species. Those thresholds come with the breed and how you bred it. So the genetics is there. Genetics you can't change what's in them genetically. You can build on it, but you can't necessarily change it. So by imprinting and by temperament testing, we're trying to see what we're getting out of this pup so we can decide future breedings or even decide who it should go to, who it shouldn't. So for instance, I may develop pups or have a produce 10 pups, and there's 3 of them that I know off bat, I'm not going to sell to somebody that I know through Facebook because I don't know anything about them and their dog knowledge. Now, let's say there's somebody that tunes into my live and I see the things they say and the questions that they have. This might be a person I will sell these 3 pups to because I just noticed that I have a higher drive. And when we use the word drive, we should look at it plurally as in multiple drives. But I notice their drives tend to be set at a higher threshold. I'm not going to sell those pups to a random person on Facebook. I will stick to people who engage in my lives, maybe people who do their own lives, and I've seen the things they talk about. And for the most part, I'm going to stick to the people that I know and already sell dogs to or come from people that I sell dogs to. And chances are that's what they're looking for. WKR says some folks get offended when you tell them not to pet your dog. They do, That's why I add the lie of he's in training or she's in training. Add that to them, and they tend to take it a little bit better. When I was young, people, oh, can I pet your dog? No, and I just keep on walking. As I've gotten older, I've learned to throw that lie in there. She's in, and I guess they're actually kind of are in training because their their socialization and their temperament. But if you just throw it in there, you know what? He's in training right now. Bam, bam, bam. We keep walking. They're still gonna get offended because that's how people are, and of course, how they feel comes before you and your dog. But at least they can take it a little bit easier. Let's see. Solo said, my bully, very intelligent. One thing I can say. There you go. WKR, that was aimed at WKR. Let's see here. Yeah, canine, if they pet mine, they'll need a prosthetic. Exactly. The Mad King say, hey, Daryl, new follower here. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in. I love the content, my dude. Can you explain exactly what happens when siblings breed? Same mom and same dad. Okay. So, kind of like we were talking about earlier with the X and Y chromosome. So, I breed mom to dad. Mom and dad battle it out over genetic information on the females. And when it comes to the males, the mom typically wins that battle. So what happens is you breed this brother to this sister, and there tends to be an overload on the mom's genetics, especially if that sister takes after her mom, because that boy is going to most likely take after his mom. So if the sister definitely does, and you breed him to the boy, he doesn't have enough genetics in him from the dad, and that's where you tend to get issues. And that's why I always say, when you do inbreeding, the dogs need to be as close to perfect in temperament. Well, for bullies, they need to be dogs, period. Let's just speak the truth. So the dogs need to be as close to possible in temperament, ability, and looks, appearance, structure, conformation. Before you do that inbreeding, you want that you take that male to that female, and they should be as close to perfect as possible. Because what ends up happening if you do an inbreeding too close, you can get structural issues. You can also get temperamental issues where the temperament skyrockets, or it actually let's say we're dealing with prey drive. The prey drive skyrockets, or it goes down. All of a sudden, it just dullens out. You took this dog that was great at protection, you bred him to his sister that was great at protection, and then all of a sudden they just became overly aggressive, or they just kind of dulled. So you have to be careful with that. But you want to make sure the dogs are as close to perfect as possible structurally, temperamentally, ability, intelligence. Make sure they're as close to perfect as possible before you do a inbreeding or a close line breeding. But that's tends to be the problem with breeding brother to sister, is that the offspring get too much of the mom's genetics. When you hear bully breeders bragging about their inbreeding that they've done, a lot of times what they don't do is show you the development of the rest of the pups in the litter. They just show you that one pup that came out okay. They don't show you the rest of the pups because some of them are deformed. They're not that bright. All they do is lay around, different things like that. Let's see. I used to say, no, she bites. That's another one. You know what I mean? You can just say, no, he bites and keep on going. And that's kind of how it was when I was young. I know he bites. And the dog might be friendly as hell, but I'm still working on, shaping its socialization. And I would say, no, he bites. But, sometimes I would just say no and just keep on walking because I'm focused on the dog and how it's operating. And then other times, I would be like, no, he bites. As I got older now, I tell them that the dog is in training. And I still have had people say to me, well, why do you have it here? Why are you in PetSmart if you don't want anybody petting your dog? Because PetSmart is pet as in pets, not as in you get to pet every dog that comes in PetSmart. So I've gotten into it with a few people over it, but I've learned to just kind of ignore people and keep on walking. The Mad King said he answered. What you mean he answered? That's because I'm caught up. That's why. I was going to ask about the deformity. Okay, yeah. So that is the thing. For example, my Jack Russell, rest in peace to her, was heavy line bred, then inbred. And it caused her to be more muscular and stocky. Her drive, though, was through the roof. But at the same time, she was not like her and a few other pups from her litter were fine with people. She didn't like people, you know, but it's just because now everything is just double, you know what I mean, because of this inbreeding. She was shorter, more stockier. If you go on my Facebook page and you look at it, you scroll through there, you'll see this Jack Russell. If you look at her, she was only about 12 to 15 pounds. 12 pounds if I was where I tried to keep her 12 to 13 pounds. If we're getting ready to work her, I would decrease her food, start working her more. And then 15 pounds when we didn't have nothing coming up. But if you look at her, she's more muscular, more bully than her chest and everything was. And she was more muscular, more bully than most bullies. So, you know, but that came from the inbreeding. Intelligence was there, but her drive and her instincts were like through the roof. Had they have done another inbreeding, there probably would have been after that worse complications as far as the structure of the dog. And it probably would have dulled. I imagine it would have dulled. But she was the perfect specimen to take to an outcross. And that's kind of the purpose of inbreeding, is to lock it in. All right, one of these went out, and I think it was this one. Let me know if you guys can't hear me. But that's kind of the purpose of inbreeding, is to lock it in, concentrate those genetics, and then you outcross to give that blood room to breathe. Let's see. Exactly. Will you be attending any East Coast dog shows once settled in Arkansas? Yes. Once we get to Arkansas, I do plan on going to more shows, Texas, the East Coast, things like that. We got a couple breedings we want to get down, and we should have the dogs for that. But I will also be doing some visiting in various states. Being here in Cali, and Cali being so big with the shows and having a lot of big shows, it just never felt necessary to really leave. Plus, we were just kind of getting into the breed. So once we move, I will be visiting more shows, some with the dogs, some without the dogs. Hold on, Eric. I think I missed it. I've seen some inbreeding done strictly out of convenience, not understanding what can come. That's the problem. I noticed that, especially when I was young, people just breeding two dogs because those were the two dogs that were available. I agree 100% on that. And that's the worst thing you can do as a breeder. It's the worst thing you can do for a breed, and it's the worst thing you can do for those people that you sell those pups to. And especially if those people plan on breeding, one of the worst things you can do. Looks like I'm caught up in the comments. We've done, 2 hours? So I'm going to go ahead and close things out. And I will see you. Hold on. For sure. No problem. What is that? The Mad King. No problem. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Salute. Hope you guys learned from this. Remember, next Tuesday, we will start the Temperament series, so make sure to let your dog friends know. We're going to get deep into the nitty-gritty of temperament, testing for it, thresholds, and all that good stuff. Other than that, I'm out. Thanks for tuning in, you guys.